A lot of dads would probably say, well, I can't admit I'm vulnerable because that's a sign of weakness. Saying, hey, I'm not okay and I need help. Hey, if I'm not okay, it's okay to say that. That's a win. Hey, what is up, everybody? It's Ed Gow Jr. from Dad Central, and this time a clean shaven Drew
Drew
Solon.
Solon from Dad Central.
Hey, how you doing, Drew?
Good. How are you, Ed?
Outstanding, outstanding. Well, we're going to get right in it today. We're going to be talking about dads and mental health. And the reason I thought, and Drew and I thought this would be a good topic for today is that in Canada, it is Mental Health Month. So we're going to chat about it today. And we're not just talking about the mental health stigma among dads, we're going to be giving real solutions. Because you know what? Because strong dads take care of their minds, not just their families. So, Drew, before we get into the three things we're going to chat about today, what are your thoughts before we get started?
I think it's a really important topic. I think there's a lot of value in actually opening the conversation and identifying ways that fathers can improve or sustain or recover their mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into three things we're going to chat about today, we just want to talk about the hidden struggle aspect of it. That we want to acknowledge that many dads suffer in silence due to fear of judgment, shame, or cultural expectations. And we're going to reflect on how this silence impacts their kids, their partner, their personal resilience. And the three things we're going to be chatting about today are redefining strength, creating your support circle, and daily mental health habits. So let's kick it off with talking about redefining strength. Drew, what are your thoughts on that in regards to redefining strength when it comes to dads and mental health?
Well, for me, given the stigma, given the fact that many fathers or men in general don't want to address or talk about their own mental health. We've been cultured to think that it's weak, it's not it's not something you do. There's a lot of barriers. And so for me, redefining strength is recognizing what is true strength versus debilitating strength. Because it's not actually strength if it actually weakens you in the long run. So staying silent, suffering, not actually addressing it's kind of like we've used this analogy before, but it's like the pebble in the shoe. If you continue on for a long period of time, that small little pebble becomes debilitatingly painful. And if you continue on, it gets to the point where you actually can't move forward. You can't keep going because it's just destroyed it. Whereas if you had removed the pebble in the first place, you probably had have continued your journey without the same issues. So for me, we have to redefine what true strength really is. And I think in this era of working through mental health, it's actually being willing to be vulnerable enough to say, I'm not doing okay. I'm having a hard time. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling torn. I'm feeling like I'm not sure I can actually make it through this next day. What about you, Ed?
Yeah, I was going to mention, but you read my alleged line about the whole thing about vulnerability is a new kind of strength for dads. In the past, a lot of dads would probably say, well, I can't admit I'm vulnerable because that's a sign of weakness. But vulnerability is a sign of strength. As you'd mentioned, that saying, hey, I'm not okay and I need help. I think it's a tough thing for a lot of dads and men to say, but it's a more emotional expression to admit that you're overwhelmed.
I want to jump in and I want to make a little bit of a delineation between what you just said. So you can say, I'm not okay, but sometimes it's hard for somebody to take the step over the line and say, "And I need help." I'd like to simply see dads or men take the first step and just be able to acknowledge and say safely, without any judgment, without any ridicule, without any like, you know, I'm not doing so well. What we know is the Huffington Post put out an article years ago, and it was talking about dads not feeling okay to basically put it out there that this parenting thing is hard. This transition to becoming this new type of person with this child and these demands and my partner, it, it's really challenging me. And dads at that point that the article was putting out there is that they don't even feel safe to even do that. So for me, let's just take step one. If you're not doing okay, it's okay to say, I'm not doing okay. And that in itself should be good enough at this stage. And ultimately, that would be a signal to those around you, hopefully, you know, a partner or family members or close friends to identify, oh, well, you might need some support. How can I help you? As opposed to necessarily a dad even having to say, well, I need help. Just when you acknowledge I'm not okay, I think that's an important step. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
No problem. Absolutely. And as we say, it's okay to say I'm not okay. Right there. That to me is a win in dad life. I was at a great leadership thing last week, and this gentleman who runs a fairly significant organization, he always starts, whether it's one-on-one meetings with any of his staff or the whole team, what's one win you had, or just celebrate a win, or just say, hey, if I'm not okay, it's okay to say that. That's a win. That's a win. All right,
Yeah.
let's move forward with our
And
next.
before we move forward, I think it's important to say that a part of this process to be able to even say you're not okay is you have to be aware. And you have to be able to know what you're experiencing, what you're feeling. And I'm go back to a time in my life when I had a lot happening. My grandmother had died. My ex-wife at the time, her uncle had died suddenly within a few weeks. I was in a new role, a ton of pressure, a ton of stress at work. Many of it I put on myself, and I just kept going. And I actually didn't know that I wasn't okay. I didn't know that I was having a hard time. And so, uh, dads, you know, I want you to be able to recognize that if you got a lot going on and a lot of stress, you may not even realize the load that you're actually carrying. And it's only until you maybe take a break. And it was my boss who saw me, you know, my grandmother died in July, but my boss saw me at the end of September, October. And she said to me, you know, maybe you should take the foot off the gas a little bit right now. And it always stuck with me because I was actually starting to feel it at that point, but I thought you just keep going. And so that kind word from my boss, which was more of just like a suggestion, actually prompted me. So, you know, my takeaway for dads is pay attention to some of the signs and some of the things that are going on in your life, and you know, maybe take a pause and reflect. And so at that point when we do realize I think it's okay for you to say, and here's your little script, you know, I'm not doing so well today, or I'm having a really hard time, but I am going to work on it. I'm going to work through it. And then do what you need to do to refill your cup. Maybe that's a day off, maybe it's going out with a friend, maybe it's playing golf, who knows what, maybe it's a workout, whatever it is, get it.
Absolutely. That leads us into our number two discussion point today, creating your support circle. Drew, your thoughts on that, creating a support circle?
Yeah. Um, Number one, I think people who can relate to your situation are tremendously valuable. So I know this doesn't always happen without our intentional investment in it, but talk with other dads who are in your circumstance. You know, find or dads who have maybe a little bit ahead of you, and they can reflect back on what it was like to be where you are now. So that to me is tremendously valuable. And that's for in anyone in any circumstance. You find somebody who can relate to you and what you're going through so that they can offer some you know, empathy as well as perhaps some lived wisdom from their experiences. So I think that's important.
Yeah. I just add on offering some tips like connect with other dads intentionally. Be intentional about that. It's really important. And then you can join a dad support group or community. We have something called DadMentor. Drew, good little plug
Yes, we
for
do.
Dad Mentor if you want to just share about it for just a second before we move on to our next point.
Yeah, the goal here is to combat the isolation that dads often feel, and to surround each of us with guidance, direction, and support for whatever age and stage your father is at. The word mentor is really essentially to guide, and the goal here is how do we guide and support each other, right? No one has, we'll say, the defined answer. Yes, we have different lived experiences or skills, but the goal is how do we kind of walk shoulder to shoulder through this journey of fatherhood, and how do we uplift each other?
Yeah, I'll just add on to that as a dad, if as dads or male caregivers, see if you can identify one or two people that you can be honest with. One or two people that you can be honest with. And then also if you feel you need to go that step, seek professional help, therapy, coaching. There are even apps out there that can help you during this time that you're having a little of a mental challenge. A lot of different things that are out there, but again, going back saying I need help and then take that next step after that. And then
Yeah.
go
So,
ahead.
Ed, for me, this is really important. I've been blessed to have men in my life, starting with when I was in sports, pretty young age, what I would call coaches. But they mentored me. They were father figures. They were disciplinarians. They did all of these things, and I have this thought of like the best athletes in the world have multiple coaches. The best performers in the world have multiple people that are part of their, we like to say entourage, but it's not. It's they have specialized skills that add value to the person who's going to perform at a high level. If you want to be a dad who performs at a high level in your role of fatherhood, why would you not do the exact same thing? People who perform at a high level have people around them who add value: coaches, therapists, right? To me, counselors. These are specialized people, financial experts. These are the people that you need to surround yourself. And so, this to me is you understand your strengths, but also understand where you are not gifted and where others around you can be very valuable. We've heard about the advisory board piece. To me, this is different. This is more about your own mental health and well-being. And so I've had a coach. I remember my coach asking me some really valuable, challenging questions. I've had counselors, I've had therapists, and right now I work with a psychologist. To me, there's no greater investment than in yourself. And these support people are experts at what they do, and you should find them and invest in them if you can.
Excellent. Moving on to our final point of the day, daily mental health habits. So, are there any daily habits that you do, Drew, to keep your mental health at best it can be?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I'm at my best, daily, I am spending quiet time. I'm usually in consuming some content that enriches my mind, my heart, maybe my spirit as well. I'm usually physically active, so I'm usually outside in some way, shape, or form. I'm usually writing or journaling some of my reflections. And then ultimately, I am usually sharing with someone who's close to me in some way, shape, or form. Those s- practices, when I do them daily, they make a huge difference. My energy, my thought process, my peace, my focus, my discipline, my ability to handle setbacks and unplanned situations are drastically different than when I don't engage in those daily disciplines. So that's for me really important. One that I've learned later, and I'm gonna let you talk on, is this idea of setting boundaries, especially with children. Children are masters because they don't understand this at challenging and pushing and basically eradicating any form of boundary. And if you're not intentional in setting that up, you can basically find yourself in a completely reactive state all the time. And so you've got to work on that. But maybe you want to talk more about the idea of boundaries.
Yeah. Before I talk about that, some other suggestions: having a morning check-in with yourself. That's something I do on a daily basis. That before my size 14s hit the floor, I've done some meditation, some prayer, and one or two things I want to accomplish for myself during the day, and what's something I can do for someone else during that day. Keeping my expectations of myself within my boundary. I don't want to be doing, say, I got to do 10 things a day. No, because I'll probably get none of them done. One or two things, and doing that morning check in. Also, sometimes I like to do voice noting stressors. So I may record some stuff, some encouraging stuff on my phone or with an app, and just play it to myself during the day. Setting the boundaries, not only at home with your kids, but also in the workplace. One of the things I like to share, especially with dads, is no is a complete sentence. And I know a lot of times we can be dads, male caregivers, we want to be people pleasers. But as Drew, I know, has said in the past, and I've said once in a while, you can't work well on an empty cup or an empty gas tank. So you really have to set those boundaries for yourself, because the better you are, dad, with yourself, the better you're going to be for your kids and your family. And also, I like to take mental health breaks or walks. Like, I work from home, whether, like now, since the weather's finally getting warmer, because I can see all the dandelions on my front lawn that I have to mow the lawn with after this. I can sit on the veranda first thing in the morning, or even during the day, take that break, or even take a 15-minute nap. Now, not everyone has that, but if you're working, set that time intentionally that you take that break. And that's it for me. I just want to say small daily steps lead to long-term strength for me. Daily small things, the small things come up to the big things and big wins. Drew, anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I want to focus on your point about saying no. And I want to give, sometimes it's challenging. And this is an area that I've learned and grown in. I wanted to serve people, I wanted to support, I wanted to be seen as helpful, I wanted to be seen as being able to do it. So I didn't always know how to say no in reasonable ways. And so I've learned a few tactics. And so I wanted to talk about it. Many of these are from Chris Voss. The rather than the hard no, which can come across as harsh and intense, you can say, I'm really sorry, but I just can't do that. And you can add right now, or I just can't do it this week, or I just can't do it, for the next 48 hours. You can use that. And it softens the no, yet it helps people recognize that you're not able to move forward. If people continue to push back, say, I'm sorry, I just can't. And then you can add it to right now, or I just can't, period. I'm sorry, but I'm just not going to be able to do that for you. These are simple ways, all starting with I'm sorry, but I just can't, or I'm not able to, or I've got other things planned, or etc. Simple tactics to help you ease into it if you're not comfortable saying no. And I agree with Ed's point that small daily steps lead up. Then the most important valuable thing you can do is be as consistent as possible in caring for yourself. This is an area that I really want to grow in this year and moving forward. It's much better to do a little bit now than kind of be like, oh, I can't do it, and try and then go all in a week or two or three later. Because I usually the week or two or three turns into like 6 months or longer. So do the bare minimum that you can every single day and try and keep that as consistent as possible.
Excellent. So as we wrap it up today, our key solutions: redefine strength, build your circle, and practice daily habits. Drew, anything you want to add, or a call to action for our listeners before we end this wonderful episode?
The only thing I'll say is that it's really important. And I want you to take it seriously and recognize the impact that this can have, not just on you, but all of those around you. And I'm going to throw a little plug. This is coming out soon, but Movember is releasing a new report, The Real Face of Men's Health, and it's going to be uncovering some important statistics and data that validate the things that we've been talking about, but addressing them with proactive solutions and calling people to these solutions. So I want to say the impact, and the report will talk about this, is well beyond just ourselves as dads. It's on the people around us, our children, our partners, our employers, our friends. It impacts our caregivers. It impacts everyone. And so this is a really important topic.
Absolutely. So as we close it down today, you're watching or listening to Dad Central, a parenting podcast to reduce stress and build confidence in fatherhood. As always, our show is brought to you by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes care is the best of a man because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. I just want to leave off with this one last thing message for dads and male caregivers. You don't have to carry everything alone. Real leaders get the support they need. So, as always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace, and thanks for listening and watching. Take care, be well, and give yourself grace.